Welcome everyone to Throwback Gaming's Our Live Biddings and Always Let's Play Part 20. Last time we did the mall, which was a lot of fun, and now we're going to do the birthday, which I'm excited. Let's see whose birthday it is. Let's jump in, shall we? A bounce house. Aren't we? I don't know whose it is, but it's kind of... I feel like you're kind of old for a bounce house, but anyways. It was a pleasant afternoon, the sun shone brightly, and the breeze tugged lightly at the balloons strung across the park. You and Cove had just been dropped off at Miranda Erkin's birthday party. Who? Like, literally never heard of this person before in my life, so... You didn't really know Miranda. Last year was the first time you had a class with her, and everyone at school knew she was quiet. The shy girl stuck to her own friend group like glue. I guess everyone in class got invited to the party. That's what I'm guessing. It had been surprised that she was having such a big party. You looked around the expensive park, spacious recreation center in the next town over, and noticed a bouncy castle. Miranda had a bit of a reputation for not caring if she acted mature like other teenagers sometimes did. It made a certain amount of sense that her party would match that. Hey, you gotta be yourself. You thought Miranda was sweet, you thought Miranda was weird, you didn't have an opinion of Miranda yet, or you wanted to get to know Miranda better. I guess we don't really have an opinion of her because we've not really known her. Miranda was a stranger for the most part. What are you supposed to think of a person you didn't know? You hadn't had a choice in coming here today. Your mom insisted on it after you got the invitation, as did Cove's mom and dad. So both you and he were driven over to the next town with presents in tow. All the parents have been pretty firm about going to the birthday party if you've been invited. You agreed it was best to attend. You wondered if it was an adult thing. You were happy to be here. You wish you were somewhere else. You felt out of place. You were willing to give it a chance. Probably just being polite. You didn't get why it seemed like such a straightforward conclusion to them. Cove made a small noise which caught your attention. He looked around, scanning the area. He fidgeted with his gift in his hand. Any idea what we're supposed to do with these? You looked at your own present and then towards the seating area. There was a table filled with snacks and drinks, supplies for various party games. Past all that, you spotted one table in the back that seemed to have a truckload of gifts. You pointed it out to Cove. Let's drop these presents off over there. Cove shrugged. He didn't look interested in the subject, even if you had just answered his question. Alright. He moved forward and headed towards the gift table. You followed with your present in hand. You walked past groups of people, classmates in semicircles broken up into the usual friend groups, chatting away. You or maybe Cove received the occasional greeting or a friendly nod. However, as you passed by even more people that you've never seen before, you became aware that there was more strangers here than not. It was more crowded than you expected. Miranda Eckert, the quiet girl, was hosting the most popular birthday party you've ever been to in a long time. You looked at the new faces and thought it was something... Wait a minute. Thought you saw something of Miranda in them. Cousins, nieces, or nephews, perhaps? Parties could be a big deal in her family. The both of you reached the table. You set your gift down in an empty space, brushing some confetti aside. And Cove placed his gently next to it. He looked at the present thoughtfully. Hey, what did you get her? Before you had a chance to answer, Cove opened his mouth again and tapped his gift. I found this sparkly backpack. I figured she could use it for school or a trip or something. Your moms had taken you out shopping the other day. You searched through the store and ultimately... You picked out a stuffed animal, you grabbed a necklace and a bracelet set, you found a light-hearted adventure book, you chose a yarn craft kit that made a toy, you let your moms pick, your moms didn't appreciate what you had picked and chosen something else. That's funny. Well, I guess we'll go with this one. I mean, she does whatever, I feel like she might like that. The colorful picture on the box appealed to you. It showed off the different variations that you can make with the kit, along with the bold images of easy and 43 pieces included. Hopefully the kit was as cool as it looked. You described it to Cove briefly, and he had no objections. Not a bad idea, but I don't know much about gifts. You both let that sit between you. Eventually you nodded. Yeah, I get it. Excuse me. Without the direction of needing to put stuff away, the two of you weren't sure what to do next. You felt a little awkward, and Cove shrunk in on himself and looked around. There were more guests heading to the present table, so you turned away and wandered over to a nearby tree where you wouldn't be in the way. From there, you both inspected the area and planted the next step. You were glad that Cove had been invited too. At least you had his company in this unfamiliar place. You watched him and gave him a nervous grin. And he gave you a nervous grin. It reassured you a little and you smiled back. What next? Cove did not appreciate being put on the spot. He was just as unsure as you were. Birthday party stuff? It didn't seem like time for cake. What with people still arriving, nothing else seemed to be organizing yet either. He noticed that himself and tried again. We could try to find Miranda. That was an idea. It made sense to greet the birthday girl. Okay, we could say hello. Wish her happy birthday. Ask her what she wants people to do. Sounds good. With that point, it was decided the Miranda hunt had begun. You wandered around. Anytime you saw someone with Miranda's hair color, you got a little closer. But more than once, it turned out not to actually be her. Probably relatives. Hey, look. Finally, he pointed over to the real Miranda. She smiled slightly when you both approached, but ducked her head. She seemed a little overwhelmed with being the center of attention today. Kind of like Cove. Oh. She's got a unicorn shirt on. Her hair is interesting. Hey, Cove. Hey, Jamie. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Thanks. I'm really glad you could come. You all stood awkwardly, and Miranda did seem genuinely happy, but there was still a distance between you two. So, are people just supposed to stand around? Oh well, you can talk to people if you want. There are games that are going to start soon. And the bounce house should be open later if you feel like jumping. Then after that, it's cake and present time. We'll have ice cream too. Ice cream's good. After that, that is when people will start going home. I hope that's okay with you guys. Cove nodded. He seemed a little more comfortable about the situation now. Yeah, he likes to know the timeline. Thanks for letting us know. You grinned at her and she nodded back. Miranda waited there and you became hyper-aware of the silence forming. You heard a shout for Randy and Miranda brightened up. A total of 180 with how stiff she had been with you. Oh, I gotta talk to some more people. Bye. The birthday girl ran off to her friend, leaving you and Cove with at least a little more of an idea what to expect. You both glanced at each other wordlessly. All that was left was now finding something to fill the time until the activities began. You tried to chat with the people around you. You just talked to Cove. You found a quiet spot to sit. You just stood where you were supposed to. You just stood around where you were. You started talking about how you felt about this kind of birthday party and what you wanted to do for your next party. Cove made the occasional suggestion. The conversation became silly as you started joking about ridiculous party ideas. Cove wanted a moon party, and you wondered if anybody had ever tried to make a cake big enough to be the party location. That's kind of silly. Suddenly, a loud voice boomed over the crowd. The constant buzz of conversation dropped as one of the adults, maybe Miranda's dad, asked the kids to gather around because it was game time. I wonder what's going to happen. You shrugged, you scanned the area to make a guess, you made a joke about something that wasn't going to happen. You saw a picture of a donkey hung on a tree, a table with a lot of candy and even more balloons. Pin the tail on the donkey. Candy, table with a lot of candy. I don't know what that could be. I guess we could be playing pin on the tail on the donkey. I doubt it. Then what do you think it's about? He pointed to the poster of the tailless donkey. He shook his head. I've never seen anybody play that in real life. The adults announced that the children under 10 had the first turn on the bounce house. For everyone else, it was time to play pin the tail on the donkey. Well, we win. You had called it. Cove raised his eyebrows. He was surprised for sure. You were excited. You thought it was kind of silly. You were a little weirded out. You were fine with the game. You didn't know how this would go. You wondered how pin the tail would even work. There was a lot of guests here and only one donkey poster. Most of the guests were a little on the older side to be even playing the game. You reluctantly joined the line since that was what you were supposed to do and you didn't feel like arguing. The donkey in question was a cartoony poster with big eyes that looked more like ping pong balls. It was positioned a few feet above the ground on the tree trunk. The teen who arrived first was blindfolded and then spun around. He was nudged to the side and away from other kids so he wouldn't stick someone with the tail instead. Unfortunately for him, he placed the tail on the donkey's head like some kind of bizarre earring. He wouldn't be winning that far from the target. His next opponent did far better by landing it on the donkey's back. Spectators clapped politely and the line moved up. More teams tried their hand at it. Some got closer than others, but no one had gotten it perfect yet. Soon it was Cove's turn. He was blindfolded and spun just like the others. At this point, it was a match close and everyone was watching with bated teeth. Cove approached the donkey and stuck the tail on without any hesitation. Cove stood back and removed his blindfold, cheering when he saw how close he was. He turned his head over his shoulders and grinned at you. That's cute. Your turn. You shook your head and stepped out of line, or you took your turn. No, we gotta do it. With the blindfold on, the bright park became utterly dark. As you were spun around, the sounds around you seemed to get louder. At least you could tell the direction of the bounce house from the shrieks of the younger children. You stopped spinning and stepped forward, tail in hand. It was time to give it a stab. You placed it directly in front of you. You placed it to the right. You placed it to the left. You reached up and placed it, or you bent and placed it downward. I don't know. I think we're gonna go with the right. You pressed the tail into the target and stepped back. You took your blindfold off to check your results. There was some more clapping from the audience. The tail wasn't too far off. Behind you, there was a particularly enthusiastic ooh, and a few people mentioned how close you got. You smiled and looked back at Cove. He seemed amused. His tail wasn't off by much either, and you couldn't tell which of you was winning. There was just too many. They were just too nearby each other. That's cute. A few more kids took their turn. One girl managed to somehow pin the tail on the opposite side of the tree. You were pretty sure it had to be on purpose. Probably, because I don't know how you accidentally put it on the wrong side of the tree, even if you're blindfolded, it's pretty bad. With the line empty, the game was finally over. The adult running thing started to inspect the donkey. At this point, the sign was more tails than donkey. After your name was announced, everyone cheered and clapped for you once more. You came up to the front, and the man gave you a handful of candy as a prize for the victory. Thank you. As you shoved the candy into your pockets, Cove walked up to you. You did good. You were humble about it. You felt bashful over winning. You reveled in your win. I'm not amazing. It's probably luck. Maybe you'll win next time. Uh-huh. Hey, you were really close, though. You got really close. He shook his head with a rueful smile. Thanks, Jamie, but it's alright. That was your win. You offered to share your candy with Cove, or you kept the prize for yourself. Do you want some? His sparkling eyes told you yes. You held out a lollipop, and Cove accepted it carefully. It was a mystery flavor, so you had no idea if he'd like it or not. He unwrapped the treat, and it was a swirl of pale blue and translucent green. Cove gave it a tiny lick. What's it taste like? Your victory. And berries, I think. You both laughed at that, and you gave him more candies. An older teen walked up, tall enough to tower over you and Cove. You felt a little intimidated by this stern-faced teenager until she started to speak. Her voice was low, but friendlier than her tough frown would suggest. Hi, I'm handing out party favors. Do you want one? She showed you the party hats. She insisted that they were the key to a true party mood. She had two options, either a colorful headband with two tiny party hats arranged like ears, or a tiara with a star on it. They were both very festive. No thanks. You knew the teen hadn't actually glared at him. Her default facial expression was just grim. I'm good. You waved the offer off with your hand. Then you encouraged Cove to pick one. Nah. Both of you had made your decisions, and that was that. The unknown teenager nodded approvingly at both of you and went past out more hats. After that, the people in charge quickly set up the next game. Teenagers milled about until they were told to find partners. You tried to listen to the rules, straining your ears to listen to the adult announcing what you were supposed to do. It was a simple game. One person in the pair would throw candy, while the other had to catch it in their mouth. If they caught it, the pair would move on to the next round, where everyone would take a step back, and the former catcher would become the thrower. The game would continue, the players getting farther and farther, until one set of partners were the only ones left standing. Everyone else lost in a round. About half the guests had already found partners. They moved fast. You noticed Cove had his eyes on you. He just stared at you expectantly, and you knew what he was getting at. Neither of you were all that familiar with anyone else here. It'd be safe choice to pair up. You agree to be his partner, or you don't want to play. Let's do it, partner. Cool. He beamed, and you started wondering about your respective candy-catching abilities. Two rows of players faced each other. Cove tilted his head towards them, and you started to head over. You both lined up directly in front of each other. It took a while to pass out the candy. You were handed a small bag of gummies that smelled strongly fruity. You know that Cove took it upon himself to do a taste test of the red one across from you. They're not bad. You should have waited. You try one for yourself, or what does it taste like? You ended up grabbing a purple gummy. It was sweet, and you guessed it was supposed to be grape flavor, but it was mostly just really sugary. And then it was time to begin. Cove's row was set to throw first. He smiled nervously, his eyes wide with seriousness. You grinned, and Cove's smile looked more genuine and less filled with tenseness. The game was on. The adult in charge shouted for the throwers to go first. You and Cove were only a couple feet away from each other. Cove's careful toss, you caught the candy easily. Like you, most of the other players moved on to the next round. There were a few gaps in the rows as everyone took a step back. The round was harder, with pairs further apart, but not so overly so. It could be done if both partners tried. You did your best as you tossed it. You had fun with it, but still tried. You threw the candy without a care. You made sure it missed. That's mean. You carefully plucked a gummy from the bag and felt its weight. You shifted it in your hand a couple times for practice, and then until Cove you were ready. You went for an underhand throw, careful to aim for Cove's mouth. The blue candy arched and landed perfectly in Cove's mouth. He chewed it twice and then smiled wildly. You could tell Cove was genuinely pleased to make it through another round. You were happy as well. The next round began. You took another step back. Cove was even further away now, and he made an okay sign. He was in this for the win. Around you, the once packed rows had thinned out some. You wonder how many rounds everyone had left in them. Cove swung his arm and made eye contact with you. You nodded, and the green candy flew towards you. You tried your best to catch it. You casually tried to catch the candy. You refused to have a green one in your mouth, or you did not try to catch it. You followed the arc of the candy and opened your mouth wide. It had a slight spin on it, and you tilted your head to the left to compensate. You bent down on the candy, grinning with your victorious catch. It tasted sweet and vaguely like a Slurpee. Interesting. Yay, Jamie! Cove was thrilled. He was entirely invested in the game at this point. That's so cute, because he's usually so shy. You and Cove were still in the game. You knew this was the final round. Oh, it's serious. Only a few pairs were left. Cove was determined to win. You could see it in the clench of his jaw, the careful way he watched you. You were charmed by his attitude. You equally wanted to win. You didn't want to let him down. You thought this was kind of funny. You felt nervous under the pressure. This game meant something to Cove, and he respected that. You were going to be there for your partner, and if you wanted to win, well, you needed to try your best. Cove gave you a firm grin, and he prepared your throw. Your fingers grabbed the orange gummy from the bag. It felt solid in your grip, even as your hand was starting to get sticky from touching all the sugary sweets. Cove leaned his face towards you and bent his knees, ready to catch. The time came. You looked at the candy and then at Cove. You tried your best, you threw it casually, you messed up your throw on purpose. Cove followed the candy with his eyes. Your throw unfortunately spinned out to the side. It looked like a loss was on the horizon. But he made a move for it, and it was good. He snatched the candy out of the air with the corner of his mouth. A wide grin spread across his face as Cove victoriously chomped down on the candy. Yes. Along with the cheer, he jumped up with excitement and pumped one arm. A beat passed, and then he realized how loud he'd been. Cove turned red and brought one of his hands to his face. We got it. You look to your left and then to your right. You see that the few remaining players walked away, commiserating over their losses. With some shock, you realize that you and Cove were the only ones who made it that round. You won. You watched the moment Cove clicked into the same realization. His face brightened like sunshine. He jogged over to close the distance between you. You two stepped closer to meet him halfway. You high-fived Cove, you put an arm around Cove, you jumped into a hug, you ruffled his hair, you nudged him in a friendly way, you smiled at him. His eyes went big when he realized you were going in for a hug. He smiled and caught you, hugging you back tightly. You won this together. Aww. He giddily stomped his foot in place in front of you as though he couldn't contain his energy. We did it! Nice catch, woo, or we demolished the competition. Nice throw. The game runner strolled over and merely gave both more candy on top of letting you keep the gummy bears. It was quite the collection. Cove laughed at just how much candy you both had acquired. Between this game and Pin the Tail on the Donkey, you were swimming in sugar now. With the candy tossed over, you were going to need something else to do. You didn't have to wait long. You heard someone in the crowd shout that the bounce house was officially open for the older kids. You and Cove shared a look. Cove smiled and you knew he wanted in. That's adorable. You both ran over to the bouncy castle and kicked your shoes off. You crawled into the inflated castle with Cove hot on your heels. There was a couple other teens already inside. You started to get a feel for bouncing. Cove hopped from the middle to the side and back. Just after you landed from a particularly high jump, someone else snuck in. It was the birthday girl herself. Hey, Miranda. Hello. Hello. Hi, birthday girl. You waved. You just glanced your way. We'll wave. Miranda looked happy. She waved both of her hands at you with a megawatt grin. Hope you're having fun. She hopped around with her hands in front of her like a kangaroo. It was a surprisingly effective way to clear distance in the bounce house. Then she jumped high, kicking both her legs out to the side and touched the tip of her toes with her fingers. Wow. Miranda didn't run out of tricks yet. She jumped a couple more times, gaining height, before doing a backflip and tucking into a ball. She managed to land on her feet, but didn't stick the landing. She tumbled back and fell on her butt. Cove clapped, and Miranda inclined her head, almost like a bow. She was back to jumping in no time. You're so good at this. She bounced close enough for the two of you to talk without shouting across the way. Cove's bouncing slowed down to accommodate their conversation. My family gets these every year, and we have a trampoline in the backyard. You're so lucky, Miranda. That's really cool. I want to do flips too. You nodded along to the conversation. You clapped for her stats. That's really cool. Miranda giggled a bit and her eyes sparkled. Hey, I can launch someone if you want. If I jump in front of you and then then your bounce will go higher. Okay, launch me, not me. I'd rather just watch. Remain silent. Sure, why not? Sure. Miranda leaped over to you, her excitement clear on her face. Cove watched with interest. She explained more clearly how this was supposed to work. You got ready to bounce on her cue. 3, 2, 1. The moment she came down, you jumped high. The force of her, just as she said, helped launch you up. The air rushed past your face, and then you were coming back down. Your feet hit the bounce house hard enough to launch Miranda up a little higher as well. She giggled some more, and the two of you took turns bouncing each other up. Cove clapped or offered suggestions, but it was becoming clear that he wanted to turn too. Miranda invited him to join and tried to synchronize your bounces to launch Cove up higher. The first time resulted in everyone crashing down into a pile of labs. By the fifth attempt, Cove managed to catch some serious airtime. Woo! Y'all had fun bouncing around. You twirled, Miranda did stunts. Cove futilely tried to touch the highest tip in the castle ceiling. You and Cove chatted to Miranda more than you ever had at school. She truly was the queen of this bounce house. Whenever someone did something cool, everyone would cheer. If you failed, the others would help you up. Well, that's good. Eventually, more people wanted to take turns in the bounce house, so you and Cove left. As you slipped on your shoes, you saw Miranda get drawn into conversation with a group of adults. She'd be talking to some of them for a while. You and Cove decided to take a break and hydrate. You went to the party table and grabbed some ice water. Cove handed you a party noisemaker he picked up from the same table. He blew on his and it made a funny sound when it unrolled. Cove downed his drink in a couple gulps. He had gotten pretty into bouncing after all. That's cute. You were still sipping on your water when Cove blew on his noisemaker again. Then again, then again. It was almost a tune. You didn't recognize any particular melody, but a noisemaker also isn't an instrument. The noise cut through the hum of the other party guests, loud and noticeable. You asked Cove to stop. You started blowing on your own noisemaker. You blew your noisemaker back at Cove, or you were amused by his antics. You blew hard enough to unfold the paper completely straight. It jutted towards Cove, almost tapping his chin. Cove wasn't going to let that stand. He retaliated and blew his back at you. It nearly touched your nose. It was a game now. Both of you tried to land a hit on the other's face. Cove managed to get your chin while you scored right in between his eyes. Oh no, it's Jeremy. Ugh. Someone vaguely familiar shouted, and you snapped your head to side to side. Cove's noisemaker dropped from his mouth. The speaker stepped up, and there was no doubt it was Jeremy, that mean boy you met at the start of summer, who we haven't seen until this point. You groan at the sight of him. Oh hey, it's the bowl hut. It's the bowl cut kid. You felt very uncomfortable and didn't know what to do. You instantly got angry at his presence. You ignored him being there. Just gonna ignore him. Maybe he'd wander off if you didn't interact. Or not. Looks like a Weevil Underwitch. Why are you here? Because he got an invitation? Or maybe he's this girl's cousin or something. Cove's tone was defensive. You watched Jeremy's face turn slack as if his closed questions was the idiocy of all idiocies. Didn't I already explain this? No, you didn't. You just showed up. He hadn't so much both you and Cove exchange a look. Do you have memory loss, or are you really that stupid? Seriously. My parents brought me. Apparently I couldn't just stay inside like I wanted. No, they insisted that I get out and enjoy the day and have fun on vacation. Blah, blah, blah. He said enjoy the day and have fun on vacation like some people would say scrub the entire bathroom or listen to an off-key singer for 10 hours. They found a park because I hate the beach. Too bad I also hate parks. Ugh, it's dirty here. They don't know anything. Do you ever enjoy anything, or do you just like to complain about everything? Because if you're going to complain, just go off. Be by yourself. Oh, and then they say this stupid party and decided to bother some adults by asking what was going on. They think maybe we could be included. It's moronic. They come to this park and then they just ask the people that are having the party if their kid can join. That's kind of weird. Get it now? That's how my parents are. Annoying and embarrassing. Why would anybody want strangers at their party? Why can't they just leave things alone? He huffed loudly and his eyes shot daggers at some grown-ups that presumably were his parents. I would just leave this kid alone. It's like, I didn't try to deal with you. Yeah, that's really awkward. That doesn't sound so bad. And all you do is complain about it. Sucks to be you. You try to be friendly and welcome Jeremy to the party. You didn't bother trying to respond to that mess of a rant. Shut up. Well, it's true. All you do is complain. If you don't like it, go do something that you enjoy. You know, you can go off the corner and not talk to anybody. You don't have to be nasty. Jeremy's eyes flipped away from you to take in the rest of the party for a bit. It was a little awkward. It was possible he didn't know what to do, but then he spoke again. How can people really go around in those embarrassing party hats? Do they think it's fun or something? How could a human be so dumb? Oh, they're having fun. Something that you obviously don't know what is. Jeremy glanced at you and Cove, gesturing to the lack of party hats on your heads. Guess that's one brain point for both of you. Hey, Miranda. Hey, Miranda can have whatever kind of party she likes. There's nothing wrong with it. Jeremy looked up at Cove with an unimpressed face. He was going to be mean. You know, those hats could only make sense on a person like you. What else would go on with those terrible eyebrows? Cove's eyes furrowed and he twisted his body to his side. He gave a harshly mumbled reply. Why do you always talk about my eyebrows? 'Cause they're always stupid. Even if you think that, why do you need to say it every time we meet? Fine, I'll say something else then. A moment passed as Jeremy inspected Cove. You shared a look with Cove, having no idea what to expect next, other than more unpleasantness. How'd you get that scar on your arm? Let me guess, you were doing something stupid. Cove gasped and grabbed his shirt up instinctively. He looked angry, but his eyes started to water. Yeah, we never figured out why he got this scar. You poured your drink on Jeremy. You pushed Jeremy in the face. You drowned out his words with your noisemaker. You stood still, shocked, or you teared up. So many good choices. You made sure to thoroughly soak him before he had time to react. He yelped back and snapped at you. Crazy? Were you drinking from that? Ugh, are you crazy? Gross. You're a dick. Okay, I shouldn't have said that. Ignore that part. You're ruining someone's party. I'm gonna find your parents and tell them what's going on. Don't say anything like that ever again. You laughed at his reaction. You said nothing. People were starting to watch what was going down. Your argument wasn't exactly quiet at this point. Why don't you just leave us... Why don't you just leave us alone if we're so awful? Jeremy glared even more and huffed. Yeah, I'm not gonna say that. Talking to you is pointless. He stalked off like the last time you saw him, muttering under his breath. Cove sighed in relief after Jeremy was gone. He relaxed only for a moment. He noticed just how much attention you had drawn from the other guests. Yeah, we need to probably apologize to everybody because it's not even our party. But Jeremy is a sad human being. Luckily, it hadn't gone on long enough to get a real crowd. A concerned adult in a blue button-up approached you and asked you who that was and if everyone was alright. I'm fine. Cove looked at you cautiously, asking just as much as if the adult if you were okay. Everything's fine now. You don't have to worry about us. The concerned adult lingered for a few seconds, but nodded and left you alone. The Jeremy fiasco was officially over. Cove rubbed his eyes, clearly ready to pull all that nonsense behind him. Then he started laughing. It was a surprise laugh, breathing out of his chest without any actual joy. It was nervous and disbelieving, and all the complex emotions brought about by one meeting with Jeremy. I can't believe it. He spoke in fits and starts. You poured your drink on him, the look on his face. You shrugged. He deserved it. You feel a little bad about it. You were still mad at what happened, or do you think it was too much? He totally deserved it. Can't say things and get away with it. Cove nodded to himself and then continued speaking. I mean, I wouldn't want someone to do it to me, but it's not like I can blame you. He was treating us so badly for no reason. I'm pretty sure he'll be okay. I bet it won't even change anything for him. Cove paused and slightly twisted his fingers together. Then in a quieter voice he spoke. And if you're bad for doing it, I'm bad too, because I kind of liked watching you do it, Jamie. Well, he totally deserved it. Besides, I had to defend your honor. He was being a jerk. Became bashful, barely able to meet your eyes as he smiled shyly. Only because he deserved it. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't want that to happen to someone out of nowhere or nothing. You felt flattered. You laughed happily over Cove's admission. You agreed it was really satisfying. You also felt bashful. You weren't sure how to feel about this. Do you want to tell your moms about Jeremy, I mean? Are you going to say what you did back at him? They'd probably be nice about it, and maybe they want to know how to handle someone like him. Cove bit his lip in thought. I'm not going to tell them anything if you don't. Thanks for asking. You decided to bring it up to your moms later, or you wanted to keep this between you and Cove? I don't know. Should we say something to him? Should we not? I mean... sure, we'll tell him. I'll let him know everything. Okay. You thought back to your realization and winced internally. You're probably going to get in trouble. Yeah, but it might fix things in the long run. Not bad trouble, not as long as your moms knew you've been picked on first, but some trouble. After all, you wanted to know the story about his scar. You didn't know the story about Cove's scar, but didn't want to mention it now. Cove didn't tell you the story when you first knew, but you knew he'd tell you later on. He was jet skiing when he wasn't supposed to and crashed. Jeremy was cruel to target him for. He was jet skiing when he wasn't supposed to and crashed. Jeremy was cruel to target him for it. Okay. Finally, you two... Oh, finally you bent over to pick up the noisemaker that Cove dropped when Jeremy appeared. It might be too dirty to use now, but you didn't want to leave it there. He accepted it softly when you offered the little favor back to him. Thanks, Jamie. I like how we can be there for each other. It makes me feel better about that kind of stuff when it happens. Yeah. Cove suggested that you should find a seat at one of the tables. It was almost cake time, and he wanted to be prepared. It was a good reminder that the party wasn't over yet. There's a free table there. Let's get some cake. You and Cove tried to settle down after the last event. You took your seats across from one another at one of the park tables. There was a few attempts to chat, but for the most part, you simply watched the adults run around and set up the cake cutting. There was a minor picnic when who you assume was Miranda's dad apparently forgot the lighter for the batch. Oh, minor panic. Lighter for the candles. He and another man went through and started asking the other adults for matches or lighters. There weren't any luck until the grim-faced teenager who had been passing up party hats pulled a green lighter from out of the ice cream cooler. When the lighter was put in the cooler, why the lighter was put in the cooler remained a mystery, but with party hat girls find it's time to get things going. I don't like that sentence. Miranda sat at the head of the longest table. A large chocolate cake was set in front of her. Chocolate. Excuse me. She lit all 14 candles with the cooler lighter with a big smile. The adults started singing Happy Birthday and the rest of the guests joined in. At the end of the song, Miranda blew out the candles with a dedicated huff. She closed her eyes and you saw her silently mouthing something. Maybe it was a birthday wish. Miranda cut her own slice, and then one of the grown-ups took over cutting the cake. Another adult passes around plates of cake slices with a scoop of vanilla ice cream to the guests. Eventually, the cake got around to you and Cove. Cove was pleased with the treat in general. The cake looked rich and moist. It smelled quite chocolatey. Sounds good to me. You only wanted to eat the ice cream, you only wanted the cake, you wanted both the cake and the ice cream, or you did not want anything on your plate. You took a bite of ice cream. The vanilla wasn't bad, but it was a little bland. The chocolate cake, however, had a rich flavor. Cove then took his fork and started mashing some on his cake. When the cake resembled a pile of crumbly chunks, he started mixing it into the ice cream. The melted parts of the ice cream made kind of a chocolate cake soup. You raised your eyebrow. You told him you would do the same thing. You thought it looked gross. I've never done that, but I want to now, or you didn't react. We'll raise an eyebrow. You were puzzled at what he was doing. Cove paid no mind. Vanilla. Ice cream is not good by itself. And I'm going to eat it with the cake either way, so why not put them together now? Things like ice cream cakes exist. Putting stuff together is normal. He's not wrong. Cove continually chowed down on his concoction. One advantage to his mix is that the ice cream seemed to catch most of the crumbs that would usually fall from eating a cake. Unlike some of the kids around him, Cove's shirt remained clean. You started eating your dessert in earnest. You enjoyed yourself plenty. Cove suddenly put his fork down on his plate and stared up at the sky with a faraway expression. You checked but didn't see anything attention-grabbing. This ice cream is better than those ones in cups, you know, with little wooden spoons. But I still kind of want those instead. You remember what he was talking about when we had that barbecue in the first step. Oh yeah, like the ones handed out at the barbecue before the fireworks happened. Right. Cove smiled nostalgically at the thought. You could picture a younger Cove for a moment with the same eyes, same look in his eyes. You offered him a bit of your dessert. You asked him if you could have a bite of his dessert. You smiled about the memory of to yourself. Miranda then started to open her gift. She systematically attacked the mountain of presents like a pro. She checked for any cards and read them out loud before opening a gift. She smiled at every present, including the ones you and Cove got her. You were glad the presents were accepted. It took time, but eventually Miranda got through all the gifts. She was very sweet and polite throughout it all. Well, that's good. The party went on until the sun began to set. By that point, most of everything had settled down and people began to leave. Any of the guests whose parents had stayed for the party were already gone, except for Miranda's family. Only a few kids were still waiting for their parents to come get them remained, you and Cove included. Miranda's family was cleaning up, and as a guest, neither you or Cove were supposed to help with that. Instead, you both decided to take it easy in the bouncy castle. It was somewhere out of the way where you could casually wait for your ride. Miranda had also elected to hang out with you. You weren't even bouncing anymore. Cove laid on his side with his back to the wall, and Miranda sat from him with her legs stretched out. You also made yourself comfortable. It was nice and warm in the little building. It also felt like you had some privacy, which was nice. You could all speak openly here. Thanks for coming. She looked down, but continued shyly. It's been really cool to get to hang out with you a little bit. Thanks for letting me come. I didn't think I'd be invited. Thanks for me too, Miranda. Yeah, I wasn't expecting it either. I'm so happy I could come. You shrugged. You chose not to respond. Miranda just smiled a little more. So, did you notice anything happen earlier? With some people you don't know showing up? She had to think about his question a little. It was apparent that she didn't have an encounter with Jeremy since there was no instant recognition. I heard about something. Some other parents were talking to my parents when their kid came and forced them to leave the park. She tilted her head to the side, finding it weird but also not important. Then everyone had cake and ice cream. Cove smiled uncomfortably. That's good. He was clearly worried that Jeremy's confrontation could have gotten to her. Luckily, it didn't seem that anyone had overheard or passed along Jeremy's cruel words. Cove rolled over on his back and sighed contentedly. Miranda seemed confused, but wasn't going to push. You got up and started bouncing again. You laid down your back, closed your eyes to rest. You changed the subject. You told her about the ordeal. Let's not bring it up. What are you going to do with all those gifts? It had become a mountain of stuff. Miranda laughed. I don't know. I was going to find a way... Cove gave a bent smile and made a suggestion. You can carry some in that backpack you got. She giggled and clapped her hands with delight. That's true. You all continued chatting in a laid-back manner until it was time to go home. At the end of the day, you thought it had been quite the party. Alrighty, and that's it for birthday. It's not really what I expected, but it was interesting. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, leave a like. Subscribe to the channel to know when videos come out. And I'm going to see you next time when we do schoolwork, which I'm guessing is like either a part-time job or maybe it's like homework that we have to do over the summer. But we'll have to find out next time. Until then, peace out, everybody.